Well, today was another big day inside the NFL. Yesterday was the finalizing of the 53-man roster, and today was the waiver wire, which means all the guys that got waived or released had the opportunity to make it through 31 teams before getting picked up in free agency. So it goes in order of record. So the Colts had number 15, just like they had the draft record 15. And while some teams took advantage of their high spots, the Colts didn't. They signed one guy, and it was kind of a puzzling move. We'll cover that and the Chris Ballard press conference and more in this video. What's going on? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we cover all things Colts every single day. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all the Colts news that's coming out. We have just a few days left until the opening kickoff of the 2024 NFL season, where we get to see if this whole experiment of keeping the same guys and signing almost no one new is going to pay off. But the first news we want to talk about is the one Colts signing from today, and that is that they picked up Samuel Womack off of waivers from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Samuel Womack played, you can see here, he is a fifth-round pick from 2022. He has 26 tackles and an interception in 2 seasons with the 49ers, dividing his time between the slot and special teams. He comes from a very similar system, Ballard said. We liked him in the draft a couple years ago, and when he got let go, we thought he'd be a good fit to add to the depth of our team. Now, here's why I think this move is initially puzzling, is because you had a guy in the slot to back up Kenny Moore, and that is Micah Abraham. Now, Micah Abraham doesn't have the same special teams experience, but as far as measurements go, he's almost identical to this new guy, Samuel Womack. And so it is initially puzzling. Why did you let one of your draft picks go instead of and then pick up this guy who you had no idea you were going to be able to get? And what is kind of making headlines is that the Colts released almost 40% of their draft picks from this season, which is heartbreaking. You know, we covered all of these guys from the moment they got drafted, and some of them even before they got drafted. And so it's sad and kind of puzzling as to why the Colts let so many of their guys go. I mean, Jonah Lealu got picked up by the Raiders, I believe. And then, you got Jalen Simpson, who did end up coming back, but then you've got Micah Abraham, who is still, as far as I know, not on the roster, though it does seem like he's probably going to be making it back on the practice squad. But it is kind of puzzling to see why did you spend your valuable draft picks on these guys instead of some other guys if you were just going to release them. So there's a lot of puzzling things, and the big thing about this is that he plays a similar position. He plays a position that the Colts already had locked in. They have the highest paid nickel corner in football and Kenny Moore, and the need is not in the nickel corner position. The need is in the outside corner and in the safety. We've covered this ad nauseum for an entire offseason. From the very end is when we started our coverage of this, and from that moment we've made probably 40 videos talking about the safety room and how bad we need to get it. So the other interesting thing is that they did release an outside corner that was a guy that they kept in place of Micah Abraham and Jalen Simpson, and that is Daryl Baker Jr. Now, if you remember last season at all, you remember that Daryl Baker Jr. was a hot name in the Colts organization and among Colts fans, and that is because of the amount of blown coverages Daryl Baker had. Now, whether that's the fault of Daryl Baker or that was the fault of Gus Bradley's defensive scheme, or maybe he was just the one in the zone at the time, there's so many things, especially when you're talking about zone coverage, which the Colts run almost more than anyone, is that cover 3 zone. When you've got your X corner or your outside corner, he's likely either going to be covering the hard flat down in, or he's going to be covering the deep. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in that specific. So it's tough to associate direct blame to Daryl Baker, but alas, he's no longer on the team because now replacing him will be Samuel Womack. Now, this is like I said, this is just really an interesting pick. His fit for the Colts remains unclear, and I think that everyone, every analyst that I watched today was kind of like, really? That guy? Because here's the guy that I was hoping that the Colts were going to pick up, and that is Jacksonville Jaguars safety Adrian Amos, who played with the Green Bay Packers from 2019 through 2022. He's got a great speed. He was on the Texans for a year, but he got cut, and he was one of the more surprising cuts because he was a fresh signing from the Jacksonville Jaguars. 31-year-old, never missed a start with the Packers. He spent the 2023 season split between the Houston Texans and the Jets, and then signed with the Jaguars this offseason, and then was immediately released. So for a lot of us, we looked at this as the opportunity for the Indianapolis Colts to finally get a veteran safety, and just like they have so many times before, they let us down. Now, that led to a lot of questions in today's press conference with Chris Ballard. And he doesn't cater to the media ever. In fact, it's almost frustrating how little he cares about the fans' opinion and all of that. It kind of would be easier if he was a little bit, I guess, kinder in response. But this is some of the highlights from his press conference today, and some of the things that kind of very easily could rub a lot of Colts fans the wrong way. His record among the 8 years is a 54-60-1, with only one playoff wins. And once a powerhouse in the AFC, the Colts are seeking to reach those heights again. However, Ballard may not be around for it if things take a turn for the worse in 2024. Now, this is where he got directly asked in this press conference if he was in the hot seat. And this is what Stephen Holder says, no different than any other year. Again, not exactly the response that you're hoping for. You're kind of hoping for a little bit of no, I believe in this system. But to say no different than any other year really isn't comforting by any means. In the last 3 years, not making the playoffs is a disappointment. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't. But I still have a very strong belief in what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we're going to get there. Either you believe in something or you believe nothing. It's easy to vacillate and go with what the world wants you to do. You either believe in something or you don't. This is what we believe. That is about 140 words to say nothing. He just says you believe in something or you don't. He doesn't even say if he believes in something or he doesn't. And then he goes on to this, and this is the tagline. If it gets me fired, so be it. And this is where I think a lot of people got really, really frustrated, because that should not be the response of a high-ranking executive in an NFL organization, especially one that has done nothing to sign free agents, told us basically believe in the draft, and then cut 40% of the draft players that he drafted in this year's draft. And this comes after the Colts released 3 of their 2024 draft picks, their 5th, 6th, and 7th round selections, just 4 months after they drafted him. Now, this is not super uncharacteristic. Roughly 60% of draft picks after the 3rd round actually make it to the NFL roster, but it is kind of one of those things that, given the Colts offseason, given the speculation that has been going around about Chris Ballard and about his job, it is kind of surprising, and it is kind of disappointing to see, because we were hoping as Colts fans that, he didn't sign anyone in the free season, and if you were trying to think optimistically, you were he's going to get it in the draft. He's got it. He's going to get it in the draft. And then to lose so many draft picks, you're kind of left wondering, do you got it? Is this going to work? And although it's a bad look for Ballard, he did choose quarterback Anthony Richardson in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. Richardson only played 4 games his rookie season, but is still showcasing his skill before suffering a season-ending right shoulder injury. We know all that. And goes on to this. Much of Indianapolis' success this season will depend on the development of second-year quarterback Anthony Richardson, who the Colts hoping takes off from his return from an injury to limit him as 4 games as a rookie. Similarly, Ballard's tenure could ultimately be linked to Richardson's success or failure in the long term. Ballard and the Colts will look for a healthy and productive season after posting a 9-8 record in 2023. If not, it could be the last for Ballard in Indianapolis. Now, there was a lot of people on Twitter specifically today that were talking about Shane Steichen. Is this Shane Steichen's last year? I cannot imagine that you associate any of the blame with how this offseason has gone to Shane Steichen. And here's why. Shane Steichen took a backup quarterback and no starting running back to 1 snap away from the playoffs in one of the harder records in football. I mean, they had an opposing record of over 600. They were, I think, top 10 in the league last year in opposing records. It's one of those things that the scheme worked for the head coaching position, and he's doing a great job at developing. I think the doubt comes with Ballard, and it comes with this. And I'm not saying that I'm fully jumping on the train of trust him, But this dude's, he believes in what he's doing, and I think that we literally have no other choice but to also believe in what he's doing. Because unfortunately, that's just the cards we've been dealt. Now, after the season, if things go horribly awry and everything falls apart, then yeah, we can once again begin the chants and we can all storm down to the capital of Indianapolis with pitchforks and fire and try and persuade Jim Irsay to do the right thing. But for right now, for this season, we're going to have to trust that Ballard believes in this experiment and the development of these young players and in the signing of guys who are kind of surprising, like Samuel Womack III. But stick around for all of it. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll cover everything going on for the Colts organization, all that and more in the next one.